Welcome to episode 59 of our Road to Unicum. Today we review the WZ-132. This is the Tier 8 Chinese light tank in World of Tanks, and we're going to look at a couple battles, both Tier 9s. The first is Fisherman's Bay, and I wanted to cover this map because it's seen some pretty significant changes in 1.0 which really change how you play this map. The most notable change for light tanks is that the 6th lane has a vertical row of bushes that extends the majority of the map from about C6 all the way down to G6. And what this allows you to do from either spawn is to spot diagonally toward their tanks that are heading into city and get early flanking shots on them. That bush provides a very good ability to kind of duck back if you get spotted, wait until you're no longer lit, and then you can spot safely again from this bush line, as it is pretty long vertically and it can be pretty tough for them to guess exactly where you are. Now, the one thing you need to be careful of is, enemy tanks will often appear along the E line. So, in this case, like there's a Skoda T50 and some other tanks that I need to be careful of in case they go middle. And what I don't want to do is cross past the F lane. That's a common mistake that light tank drivers do. They overspot and overexpose themselves. And what I'm doing here is helping our arties get some early shots on these guys. Now, one thing you'll notice, well before the match started, I was already talking to my team and letting them know where I was going to be spotting. Again, I need to watch out there since I was lit, make sure that T92 doesn't have an angle on me, and then always keep moving because they do have 2 arty and I have to assume that they're going to be targeting me, whether or not that's actually the case. One thing sometimes I find is that I actually communicate in chat a little bit too early before people have actually zoned in. So more recently, I'll start typing into chat and then I won't hit enter until about 5 to 10 seconds left before the battle starts, and I'll keep an eye on how many of our tanks have actually entered in the battle. So I'm getting a little unlucky with a couple of those shots. That was a full flanking shot and somehow it didn't penetrate that heavy tank side armor. From a side perspective, when they're flat like that, really, against even tier tanks, you should penetrate. At least that would make sense to me. That's not the case with the Object 257. The hull has a really unique layout where if you're looking at the tank front on, the bottom of the hull drops down like a triangle into the middle underneath the tank. But what that means, if you're shooting it from the side, you're actually shooting at a triangle, and so it makes it really difficult to penetrate the tank. Now, one thing you want to be careful of, like right here, you can see that 257 was looking right at me. Was I lit? No, but he was taking a blind shot and guesstimating where I was in the bushes. So in that case, especially if I know the guy's looking right at me, whether or not he's actually got me lit, I shouldn't be too predictable, and I was going to the same spot in the bush, so that's a very easy to fix mistake. And then in that case, I was also spotted by the Skoda T50. I need to be careful. As long as I'm kind of toward the right side, right up against these bushes, it's unlikely that the Skoda T50 or T92 are going to spot me unless they cross over the EF line barrier, in which case they'll be too far. But right here you can see, like, even against a fairly side-angled T57, there is no reliable penetrating shot. I think the armor profile is pretty bogus. Now you can see our arty there, M53 just tagged one of their heavy tanks, and the really good thing about what our arties have done is they've gotten perpendicular to each other. So our M53 is able to fire vertically along the 8-9 lane, and then our M40 is able to hit diagonally, kind of cutting northeast, so he can hit these heavy tanks that are sitting behind buildings that are safe from the M53, but they're not safe from the M40. Now, obviously, you'll have plenty of games where you won't have arties spread out like this. I think a common mistake with arties on a map like this where there are multiple locations to set up is when the arties go and they clump up together because they're going to have an identical field of fire, which just isn't very flexible. Now, one thing that I could do here, this T-34 is looking right at me. I can probably back up a little bit more before I fire, and as long as my gun depression is not limiting me, if those bushes in front of me go solid, that means even when I fire, the bushes are still going to provide camouflage, at least in a direct line going to that T-34. But I hit the T-34 and I already finished him off, and I think it's worth saying, just because you're spotting properly, and I have been spotting reasonably effectively, doesn't mean that people are going to actually shoot what you light. Now, the Skoda T50, I could sneak up here and take shots at him because I've been listening to the number of times he's fired, and when I went and took that first shot, he only had 1 shot left. That second shot was a mistake on my part, and so even though his front armor is very thin, I should have been aiming more to the right, toward the side of his hull, but instead I bounced it off his heavily angled frontal armor, And I'm going to have to get out of here pretty soon. This Tiger 2, he's going to make a very big mistake in that he's going to over pursue me. But the problem is I'm sitting out here in the open, and then once that stun effect wears off, he's going to have no problem aiming in and hitting me. If he hits me pretty much anywhere, I'm going to take damage, right? So now that he's hit me, I'm potentially one-shotable. I need to get out of here. But the Tiger 2, he's crossed over the EF line. He's way exposed, and he's about to get obliterated by our camping tank destroyers down in the southwest corner of the hill. With the map changes, I was never a fan of playing the 1-2 lane in a light tank, because basically you push down to like D from this side or G from the other side and sit behind a rock and hope that your teammates bail you out. I like to go places where I can get in and out, and I can control whether or not I get boxed in and where I'll be able to use my gun. And that was really not the case on a consistent basis for the 1-2 lane. Now, like I said, the 257 has a pretty hard armor profile to penetrate, and you could see even when I was mousing over it, a lot of it was red except for a sliver in the middle where it's green, and that's where I hit him. Again, I'm avoiding the T92 and Skoda T50. Obviously the Skoda, because he can clip me out, but also because I want to keep these guys lit so that our heavies, our arties can soften up their heavies, so that when it comes to brawling, our guys are eventually going to break through. And here I'm just pre-aiming because I know that there's a good chance that IS-6 is going to back up into my field of fire, and if he does, I'm going to have the first shot advantage and be ready. So he's right there. I'm going to take a shot in between those buildings. Okay, that didn't go through. IS-6 actually has pretty decent side armor, and it's a little bit of a distance, so that's not a gimme shot. And I'm going to be driving around a little bit, looping a little bit unpredictably. And as I'm zigzagging around here, you just heard the sound of Artie behind me to my right, so that's their Artie trying to shoot me. Don't want to be too predictable here. And the thing is, there's a reasonable chance that I'm going to get hit by Artie at some point, but as long as I can limit the splash damage, or have it maybe only happen once or twice in a battle, that's okay. Because by spotting them, I've really helped our team soften up their heavies, and now our heavies have a pretty large HP advantage, and they just need to push in on that tortoise. But I was saying about the Skoda earlier. The T50, I made the mistake because as he was pulling away, and that would have been a kill shot had my earlier second shot hit him, right? But the problem that I made was that as he was pulling away, I didn't aim, I didn't lead the shot toward the side of his armor enough, and it bounced off his frontal hull armor. And so even though his frontal hull armor is pretty thin, the fact that it was so heavily angled, 7 degrees or more when I hit it, it just glanced off. Okay, so that time Artie hit me. I chose not to burn a repair kit or my first aid kit because the only tank that could kill me is the T92, and he'd have to come up and over from where he is, and he's most likely going to get shot at by my heavy. So what I can't do now, because I'm potentially one-shotable, is peek out. And that would be a really common mistake, either to peek out to the bushes to the left of this building or on the right of this building. I don't really need to damage him right now. We're in a good position, and if I'm patient, we're gonna wear out these other tanks. The next priority is the Tortoise. I don't really care about the T92. The only guy he's spotting for is Artie on their team. Their Tortoise is their most dangerous tank, so we want to work him. And so if I had more hit points, let's say if I had 600 or more, sure, I would go after the T92 because my gun has a much better alpha value than his does. And that's really the nicest thing about the WZ-132. This tank has very poor gun depression and a soft turret, and that's a very rough combination to handle unless you know the maps and terrain really well. But because in general, I have plenty of experience as a light tank driver, I'm able to put the alpha of this gun to good effect and out-trade tanks. Now, here I'm going to make a very silly mistake. I'm going up to flank the Tortoise, and while that sounds like a rational thing, and the UDES was spotted over by A1, their Scorpion hadn't been spotted yet. And I didn't need to drive down the hill and take that shot. I could have sat up by that EF lane, around just south of the buildings at E5, E6, right? And shot down the road at the Tortoise. Even if it had been spotted, I would have been completely covered by hard cover. And in this case, we had a pretty good lead, but, I've lost plenty of battles because I wasn't careful enough, and then our guys kind of blew the lead as we go. Actually, when I was watching these guys, I was getting a little bit nervous. Our Type 4 Heavy stops. He's a tank with an incredibly inaccurate but powerful derp gun. All he needs to do is roll up and shoot the Scorpion in the face, and this game is over, right? At least, this flank will be completely folded. And as it is, their Scorpion is getting pounded. I like what our M40 did. He kind of moved up, kind of following the flow of the battle, right? And then when I watch the 430, this also, again, makes me very nervous because what he should do, instead of pointing his hull to the right, he should be pointing it to the left. So he's got his front, so you can, in real time, it's oh, that's what this guy's doing is really not that smart. And the only reason why he gets lucky here is the Scorpion rushes his shot. He didn't need to do that once. You know, this is the thing. And like more of a Type 4 Heavy like just whiffs a shot completely, like firing on the move, you know. And so anyway, you know, there's like subtle things as far as controlling the positioning of your tank and your exposure, and certainly understanding the situation. Like the Type 4 Heavy had no reason to hang back. Like the Scorpion can't one-shot him. Even if Artie hits him, he's still going to be alive, you know, and he could just roll up there and click on the turret of the Scorpion. The Scorpion will just explode. So this is a pretty, you know, balanced damage game for me in terms of both damage and spotting. Finished with about 2.8k for both. Pretty solid game, and you know, if I had been a little bit more careful about being less predictable, the 257 wouldn't have been able to blind fire me. And then again, you know, even a couple times when I took shots, it's possible that I could have backed down the hill a little bit to minimize my exposure, and if the bushes turn solid, then they'll still consume me after I fire. This is a tier 9 battle in Mountain Pass, and this map really didn't get any meaningful changes with 1.0. Some maps significantly changed, like Fjord significantly changed, same with Fisherman's Bay. Like the general layout is the same, but the middle of the map changed significantly. This map is pretty much the same. And what I'm going to do here, this is a risky thing, you need to be very careful, but I'm trying to come up here to see if I can spot their tanks as they cross to the south part of the map. But as it turns out, 2 of their light tanks are crossing, and so I need to get out of here. The second I fire, I'm going to get spotted. You could argue that I should have sat there and not fired, and maybe I could have spotted some of their tanks crossing, but the thing is I can't really stay here because they've got 2 light tanks that are underneath me, so they're going to be able to dictate their level of exposure. But I'm sitting out here pretty far, and I'm hanging out here to see if I can spot any of their tanks crossing, but I've got to be careful because now the T-54 is in a position to fire on me. And then, you know, once I fire, I'm going to be lit. Now, obviously, if I were at low hit points, I don't take that shot. The T-54 was driving from my right to left with his turret facing to my right, so he wasn't in a position where, you know, he's likely to hit me if he's going to try to snapshot me. But you got to, you know, take into account the number of hit points. Like I said, if this were later in the battle and I were one-shottable, I wouldn't have taken that shot. Because the second I take that shot, he's going to spot me. Now, I'm kind of like we're in a really awkward position. First of all, we don't have enough tanks that made it south. We've got M46 Patton and Pershing, and the good thing about those tanks is they both have excellent gun depression and pretty meaningful turret armor. But what we have is a ton of tanks that are just camping around the base, and these guys basically have no field of fire and have to wait until someone drives in their line of sight. I am staying here hoping to get a shot or two on their light tanks when they poke up here. And really, there isn't anything that I can do right now. I certainly can't cross to the south because I'll be driving across open ground. That's too risky. I might get tracked or I might get smacked by that T-49 and his derp gun. I don't want to go bridge where the IS-2 is because that's a funnel, and it's really easy for tanks, if they get spotted, just to pull back behind a rock. So that's what I was waiting for, to hopefully get a shot in the T-49. It didn't land, but I already got another shot on him, and I'm getting spotting credit. But basically, I'm keeping these guys from being able to poke up too high. If they poke up high enough, they're going to see, for example, our Striv S1, you know, and that guy is in a position where I believe he is, well, actually, depending where their arties are, their arties can probably hit him. Now, watching the minimap, you can see that their Batchat 12T has now flanked our remaining heavy that's along the ice road. And, you know, very early on in the game, our Panther was complaining to us that, you know, we didn't have enough people playing ice road, yada yada. Going with a pea shooter tank to ice road is not very smart. It is a brawling area where, due to the amount of hard cover, until you get up to these straight areas, you can fire and then go sit behind a hard cover while your, you know, reload is ticking up. Now, both of these battles are tier 9 battles. You guys have seen me making videos showing me bottom tier in a lot of battles. In this case, I'm the middle tier for both, but one, because the footage from the Fisherman's Bay I thought was so illustrative, and then two, because what you're going to see me here is I'm going to help anchor a comeback here. Now, what our M40 is doing here is driving me nuts. He was so far up that he allowed himself to get hit, and now he's one-shottable. If he's got 400 hit points, most of their tanks that are over here can't one-shot him, right? But he went up looking for a meaningless shot, and there I was slightly overexposed. It's like one of those things, it's going to happen, right? At the time, I thought there was just that tier 7 Russian medium tank, but remember, our M40 got shot, so right there, he was one-shottable to the T-54. And see, our second arty, our Crusader, waited, and he hit the T-54, which was a smart thing to do, and forced that guy to burn his, looks like his first aid kit. And then notice, I can see the roof of the T-54. Now, the front of the T-54 is very strong, and I won't be able to penetrate. Even with gold ammo, I don't think I could penetrate it frontally. on the turret face, right? But because he was angled and facing down, I can see his turret roof. The turret roof is 30 millimeters. There's a mechanic called overmatch, right? And so if the caliber of your gun exceeds 3 times the armor thickness, it's a guaranteed penetration with AP, and you won't ricochet, right? And so in this case, I've got a 100 millimeter gun that is a 30 millimeter roof. It's a guaranteed penetration. And I do have to move back and forth. You can see there already is firing at me, but when I came back to base, I very consciously came to this corner, right? Why? Well, I'm perpendicular to their tanks. You hear me talk about this all the time. They can't advance on either the IS-2 or me without giving up flanking shots to our other tank, right? And so this is very intentional. What I've essentially done is stalled out a superior push of tanks where they had the numbers and they had the HP and the DPM if they just used it correctly, but, you know, force them to make a decision. So this T-29 is pushing up now, but I soften him up, make him one-shottable, and the IS-2 finishes them off. And then the Tiger, you don't ever want to do this against a light tank unless you know you can pin him in a corner. Why is he rushing me? Like, this is like an area with terrible terrain resistances, and that guy's never going to get his turret on me again. Like, yes, he shot me once, but good luck trying to hit a light tank that is far more maneuverable than you. And one reason why I pulled up close to him, by the way, was in case their arties fire. They might hit me and kill me, but if they do that, they're going to kill their own guy too. It's a little bit of a deterrent. Frankly, I know like a lot of arties will take the shot anyway, because, you know, who knows what arty players are thinking sometimes, but in that case at least, you know, just staying on the opposite side of the Tiger 1 rather, and he's got nowhere to go. Now, we did win the southern part of the map eventually. What actually was a little bit annoying was the fact that when it looked bad on ice row in the A and B lanes, a lot of our tanks neglected the base, and they were ahead of us. So if I didn't go where I went, or if I stayed on the south side of our cap point, we would have lost the DPM raise, and that T-54 would have pushed our faces in eventually, right? So anyway, it's like one of those things where it seems really subtle, but that action, in my opinion, even though our patent racked up a lot of damage, I saved them from wiping our base and capping it out. And so sometimes, you know, this isn't a brawling tank, but you can use the speed to get to that perpendicular position and make yourself tough to dig out. The WZ-132, this was a big surprise to me. I pulled the 72% win rate in the first 100 battles, playing plenty of those battles solo, and I was actually around 75% until I had a streak of bad games to close out the first 100. But, you know, that's an unusually good win rate, but, you know, really the alpha of this tank is what makes it work, you know. And you can still spot very effectively, but if you can put the alpha to work, you can really hurt other mediums, and especially light tanks. I hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Take care.